Hello everyone. Today I'm going to tell you something that I heard myself, and it shocked me. From a forbidden website that the US government is hiding, I found a terrifying story based on real events, and I was able to rewrite it word for word. I'm going to tell you about a man who saw a Bigfoot, and it's crazy and hard to believe, but once you watch the video, you'll understand that it's true. Enjoy the video. I've been keeping records of all my nature trips since 1963, when I worked at a station in the Caucasus Mountains. Some of them are very concise. When I went out, when I came back, what I took for hunting, and what I brought back. Gradually, my notes turned into a book, which was later published for me. It was published because I finished it in 1993. Here's one of the stories from this book. It was October 1974. It was a gloomy autumn day. Since early morning, we had been wandering through the ravines and copses of the Eshkakan Gorge, but we hadn't encountered any wildlife. By lunchtime, we had gathered together and decided to search the right side of the gorge, at least 2 kilometers down, until we reached the next major tributary, from where we would start climbing up to the station where I had been working for several years. The slope was densely covered with forest and bushes of hazel and currant. There were 4 of us, and we spread out across the slope. I moved forward, knowing that if one of the others raised an animal, it would come to me, as the right side of the slope was dominated by steep cliffs. Any animal would have to go down the slope, and I would be able to see it. Our unsuccessful hunt was due to the fact that autumn was still early and snow had not yet fallen. Not all the trees had shed their leaves yet, and the fallen leaves rustled very strongly underfoot, and therefore it was difficult to get within shooting distance of the beast. We didn't have any dogs, so we had to rely only on ourselves, on our own experience, to find an animal by intuition. Suddenly, a roe deer came out of the nearby bushes. She literally flashed by as an orange-white spot among the trees. I didn't even have time to raise my gun before she disappeared into the forest. Ahead, on the bushes with yellow leaves, there were still fresh black berries of wild currant. I approached them and, with my rifle on my shoulder, began to pick the large berries. Above my head, chickadees darted about, chirping as they flew from one branch to another. Completely forgetting that I was on a hunting trip, I eagerly picked the juicy berries, smearing my hands and lips with their juice. Suddenly, I heard the rustling of dry grass and leaves very close to me, just 10 or 12 meters away, in the thick of the bushes, under a large birch tree. It sounded like a wild boar slowly rising from its lair. Carefully removing my rifle from my shoulder, I became alert, peering into the thicket and listening carefully. The silence in the gorge was so profound that it made my ears ring. The only sound was the fluttering of the tits. But then the rustling resumed, accompanied by the sound of dry weeds. I focused my attention on the source of the noise. A large, brownish-gray object with indistinct shapes loomed ahead. A wild boar, he thought. No, it's too big for a wild boar. A bear. Yes, it must be a bear. It was eating currants, and now it's lying down. Should I shoot it? Where should I shoot it? Where's its head? Where's its body? Which side is it facing me? At this distance, you have to be sure of your shot. A wounded animal might attack. I thought I could hear his breathing, and I thought I could see his eyes looking at me. But there were no eyes to be seen. There was just a shapeless figure. The outline of the figure was obscured by the bushes, which still had some leaves on them. All I could see was that there was some kind of animal standing in the bushes. Of course, I could have shot this brown creature in the head, but my hunting ethics and rules forbade me from shooting an unclear, let alone unknown, object. A slight rustling and the crackling of dry grass caused me to tighten my grip on the rifle. The creature was slowly making its way through the undergrowth towards a more open area of the forest. I involuntarily leaned forward, using my left hand to part the bushes and my right hand to hold the rifle. The creature had already passed through the thicket, and the sound of breaking branches was replaced by the sound of its footsteps. Tap, 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 an almost human gait that was nothing like an animal's. Through the bushes, I could see a vague, brownish-gray figure. It looks like a bear on its hind legs, I thought, taking 2 or 3 steps forward. Suddenly, a terrible scream pierced the silence of the autumn forest. It was a unique, loud, and sharp sound. I had never heard anything like it in my life. The scream was filled with rage and anger, but also a sense of warning. The scream was like saying, "Don't come closer, or I'll kill you." It repeated itself 2 more times at the same intervals. The mountains seemed to tremble, and the earth shook beneath my feet. I stood there, frozen, not understanding what was happening. A shiver ran down my spine, and a mixture of fear and curiosity gripped me. I didn't know what to do or how to proceed. The creature was making long leaps on 2 legs as it ran across the clearing and into the depths of the forest. Through the undergrowth, I could see the figure of a man covered in brownish-red fur as he darted between the trees and bushes. I felt uneasy, frightened, and terrified. It wasn't because I thought the creature might turn around and attack me, but rather because it was something unknown, mysterious, and unnatural. The creature had already disappeared into the thicket behind the hill, but his terrible and unique scream was still ringing in his ears. His stooped figure with long arms was still visible in his mind's eye. Headlong, breaking branches and getting tangled in the dead grass, I rushed across the rocky hill to catch a glimpse of the creature. But alas, it had disappeared into the depths of the gorge. Returning to the spot where I had seen it, I examined the ground carefully. There were almost no traces, just elongated depressions in the grass that resembled the large, broad foot of a human. Sometime later, I learned that it was a Caucasian almosti. Depending on the habitat, the name of the local wild man, the much talked about Bigfoot, changes. It is known to science as a relict hominid, and encounters with it are quite rare. Not everyone, not just ordinary mortals, but also scientists, believes in its existence. However, I know and believe that I was lucky enough to see it with my own eyes. If you want to continue, please like and subscribe to the channel, so I know that you are interested.